Taehyung continues to selfishly use Yeonjun for another 3 weeks. He could puke on himself, that's how disgusting he thinks his own behavior is, but still, he continues with it. Yeonjun more or less moves in with Taehyung. Yeonjun calls in sick for work a lot, and they cut themselves out from the outer world. When Taehyung receives a text from Jungkook, he lets Yeonjun read it. And when Yeonjun says that he'll take care of it, Taehyung drops it altogether. He realizes that it must have had something to do with Jungkook wanting to come and get his things, because a day or so later, after Yeonjun surprisingly has forced Taehyung to go for a ride in the car, the flat is completely emptied of Jungkook's things. It is what it is, he guesses. Week 2 and 3 they keep on shagging unhealthily much. It's surely not a healthy behavior, and Taehyung is kind of aware, but can't be bothered to analyze. And Yeonjun, well, Yeonjun, he's just tugging along. It's not difficult to see that he's completely gone for Taehyung, and it's honestly hurting to see the adoring eyes he has when looking at him. The few times Taehyung feels that his vision and mind aren't completely blurred, that is. This must come to an end, and Taehyung knows he's the one who needs to break this off. It's difficult, though, for obvious reasons. Taehyung doesn't want to be alone, and he doesn't want to shatter Yeonjun's heart. He's going to have to do both. During the 4th week, he's distancing himself from Yeonjun, even though he probably isn't fully aware of what he's doing himself. Yeonjun notices a change but doesn't seem overly worried. He's used to Taehyung's slightly weird behavior. This is kind of part of the package. Taehyung doesn't let himself get in contact with his feelings a lot during this period, hardly at all to be honest. But one thing he forces himself to open his mind for, and that is the analyzation of his feelings for Yeonjun. Yeonjun's a good lad, a really good lad, who has far from earned to be treated like this. Therefore, Taehyung must be sure about the final blow to him, because there will obviously be no turning back. Hey, Yeonjun, it's late Sunday evening when Taehyung knows the time has come. They're cuddled up on the couch, and Yeonjun has just started to initiate some foreplay, which Taehyung, just like for the whole past week, isn't responding to. They haven't had it in 6 days. This last week without it has been a relief for Taehyung. In a normal relationship, like the one he was in for ages with Jungkook, 6 days without sleeping with each other would have been unthinkable. Even if they weren't in the same geographical location, they'd become pros on video early on. Both absolutely loved all forms and had always prioritized it hard. But from the very first time with Yeonjun, Taehyung felt that it was something completely different. It was, and continued to be throughout their 4 weeks so-called relationship, forced and desperate and numbing. Nothing's really pleasant with it, really, just a mean to forget for a while. Taehyung hasn't felt one single time. That's utterly sad, but true. Hey, Yeonjun, he repeats and gets Yeonjun's attention, from where his face is buried against Taehyung's neck. He looks up and Taehyung is steeling himself, taking a deep breath. I can't go on like this, baby. I'm not feeling well. I honestly think I need help. Everything's a black hole, and wouldn't it have been for you I would have been in the psych ward by now. Yeonjun's reaction is not one he anticipated. He just looks at Taehyung calmly, with soft, but sad, eyes. Then he nods and withdraws from Taehyung, not entirely, but enough for him to not be in his private space. I know, he says and comes up with his hand to Taehyung's cheek, caressing his thumb back and forth over it. I know, baby, and then they start to cry. Taehyung first, but soon followed by Yeonjun, and Taehyung is sure that they cry for different reasons, but it's still good to do it together. Not a lot more needs to be said about it. They cry and hug and mumbles a few things here and there. You want me to leave now? Yeonjun asks after a good couple of hours, when they both feel exhausted and completely drained of all emotions. It's midnight and Taehyung didn't even think about him leaving when starting up this goodbye conversation. No. God, no. Can you please stay the night at that? Yeonjun smiles, clearly relieved, but Taehyung also has a feeling of Yeonjun being relieved for more than that. He truly believes that Yeonjun feels lighter, now that this roller coaster of a month has finally come to an end. They stay on the couch throughout the night. Yeonjun goes and grabs the duvet from the bedroom, and they squeeze in together, fully dressed. It feels safe. They leave the TV on and fall in and out of sleep, but the sleep Taehyung gets is the best he's had since Jungkook left him. When the morning comes, it isn't very dramatic. Taehyung thought that he himself would be anxious and scared of being left alone, and perhaps that Yeonjun would be having severe separation anxiety. But that doesn't happen. For himself, he's pretty sure it's due to the fact that he's reached the point of no return. He knows that he needs to work hard to feel good again. And he will. He's prepared to do that. I know we'll stay friends, Taehyung says, and he doesn't doubt it for a second. Just give me some time. Yeonjun nods, and he looks strangely relaxed. Relieved, even. Perhaps happy. You need to give me some time too, Taehyung, he says softly. And, yeah, we'll stay friends. If there's such a thing as a good breakup, this must be one of those. We have an hour, then we must head back out, Jungkook says right after he dropped the comment. I wasn't as innocent as I might have wanted to come across as, you know, and Taehyung understands. They can't really be in this alluring, luxurious bedroom alone in the first place, so an hour is definitely tops, and they need to get their conversation going. After that, Jungkook needs to seek up Justin again and return to normal. What did you do? Then Taehyung asks, his words almost choked off from nervousness about finally hearing Jungkook's answer to that. I got more involved with Justin than what was appropriate, right? They don't have time for beating around the bush, but this is a slap right in Taehyung's face and he needs time to just stare at Jungkook and process. So, Jungkook continues, nothing happened, like, physically. Not then. But emotionally. I thought he was cool. You and me hardly saw each other, and when we did, you were often so frustrated. I spent too much time with him, during a period when I was vulnerable and very responsive to someone else's attention. Did he court you well? Having thought about in retrospect, yeah, I think he did. I couldn't see it then, though. Never thought he would cross the line, given that he knew I was with you. But, Jesus, Cookie, I don't know if I wanna hear this, he thinks, cursing himself for always, reflexively getting the urgent need of wanting to flee, to run, to evade. Or at least to make him shut up. But he needs to stay, though, to hear this through. And it seems like Jungkook isn't going to let him get away either, mercilessly barging on. When I realized, it was probably too late anyway. When I realized that you were going to leave me, he'd somehow already won me over to his side. But Cookie, I'm sorry. I told you that you weren't solely to blame in this. This talk was never going to be a pretty one, but I really think we need to get through this, however uncomfortable. I was never going to leave you. Cookie Taehyung's voice sounds desperate and, well, he is. That was the last thing I ever wanted to do. Why did you? Then I've already told you. I felt like you were leaving me. They sit in silence for some time. Taekook absent-mindedly follows a seagull with his gaze, cruising in the air outside their window wall, his mind very present in this room. Though you felt like I was leaving you, whilst you fudged. Jungkook is clearly attempting to sound sober when saying it, but there's a vague tang of bitterness in his voice. Of course, it is. Taekook can certainly not blame him. That was a mistake.